NovelMAIgic with Niles Merlinowski episode 3 regarding Extinction J/K. And there he found her, the girl from his dream, and the main reason behind why he wanted to attend college even if he wasn't focusing on acting anymore. She still hadn't quite noticed his presence yet as she Howdy folks, it is I, Niles Merlinowski, and before we begin I got to explain that whole human extinction thing. My bad. Basically, it's the second largest Bible at number 2 placed next to the Abrahamic, but there is only about a tenth as many Bible stories that make fun of creationists, even though most of the New Testament involves our friends on Mars almost killing us, while the Romans think the New Testament is about a Muslim with a casserole named Stephen. Did no one watch that show? It was so funny at first, where Jesus goes in and does a complete check for stowaways and catches everyone sleeping, and it's over, not even to really catch on fire, but God, the angels, or whoever would just... Oh y'all, turn them into salt, so funny I thought. No, seriously guys, think of these other stories, they must be somewhere under there. In some library they haven't gotten around to printing out yet. Here on Earth or in the afterlife. Anyway, here on Earth, if your civilization happened to get rid of us, somehow it's been 3,000 years give or take that they still let all our remain without getting spruced up any either, which leads me to my question and my point. Asterisk cutscene of books coming out and shutting asterisk. Where'd you get those books? Hell, first in my teen years I got them at the local Golden Books by the mall in my hometown of Downey, California. Then as I went in pursuit of my undergrad studies I got them in various libraries, and then time is on what you think at the time, so I did, and I got delivered a whole bunch of books on Netflix. And then when I moved to the New York City I wandered around the streets and they had them being sold in tables, and it's a perfect magical psychodynamic psychogeographic happening. Gee, that happens when you make me want to wander, and you have an image of your brain in your brain and you have your intention, and sometimes it appears on a table next to some scrabbly guy with also some jazz records. It works most of the time, folks. We are magic. Why are you doing that? There were always cool movies opening near my parents' place back when I was like 11. Back then they all were getting tossed out, then it seemed a few started showing up and usually ended up staying with a stack of other movies, like where someone snuck some in somehow without anybody noticing. Like if there were 4 but one didn't show up. Where the same people opened for maybe 4 shows and then got all worn down by how tired they get. Hell, first in my teen years I got them at the local Golden Books by the mall in my hometown of Downey, California. Then as I went in pursuit of my undergrad studies I got them in various libraries, and then time is on what you think at the time, so I did, and I got delivered a whole bunch of books on Netflix. And then when I moved to the New York City I wandered around the streets and they had them being sold in tables, and that's a perfect magical psychodynamic psychogeographic happening. Gee, that happens when you make me want to wonder, and you have an image of your brain in your brain and you have your intention, and sometimes it appears on a table next to some scraggly guy with also some jazz records. It works most of the time, folks. We are magic. Why are you doing that? There were always cool movies opening near my parents' place back when I was like 11. Back then they all were getting tossed out, then it seemed a few started showing up and usually ended up staying with a stack ho. If other movies like where someone snuck some in somehow without anybody noticing. Like if there were 4 but one didn't show up. Where the same people opened for maybe 4 shows and then got all worn down by how tired they get. And then I remember my formative experience with Edward Scissorhands at the nearby that was $2 for screening, and the floors were thick with the syrup of past beverages, and I ate a very high-end butter content popcorn, and I cried at the end credits, and then I puked the next day because I think something was in the butter that led to some of my first visions that I still park in his anchors enjoying my astral chain trade travels. Did I mention that yet? Those feelings well kinda went into my writing, it's true. I swear I was getting so much exercise after my episodes, except no one really cares that you lose about 339 to a pint in size each time. That is why if you are ever lost, find one of my books, you can fill this space, and if you keep going, won't make a difference, and good Lord Gower. Can we get on to the games, please? I'm down to 12 games out of 25 that don't exist here at the library. You'll excuse me, yes, no. And you'll have to provide for me a reasonable accommodation according to the because of my ADHD, because of that I need to gamify everything I do, cause otherwise I'm not going to be interested in it, and once I'm interested, not interested in it, I just don't do it, like brushing the teeth or washing the face and cultivating lots of bacterial microbes that in the end I would able to be used for magical purposes as a synthetic connection, but mostly I wouldn't be able to pay taxes unless you know. Yeah, that's a long story. It takes me over 2 hours now to learn how to juggle more than one thing in my brain. There is it said every 6 months, like a clock spring about an hour delay, which sort of fits what the highs from cocaine add up to if I'm addicted enough, but it gets addictive. But at that point doesn't it also be self-destructive? If we live beyond 500 years old, well then I don't know what time period, since I live life so full that maybe that will be out of a concern by then. So hey, there's my half-assed plan of action for what I was going to talk about, which was, and you have to provide for me a reasonable accommodation according to the aid because of my ADHD, because of that I need to gamify everything I do, cause otherwise I'm not going to be interested in it, and once I'm interested, not interested in it, I just don't do it, like brushing the teeth or washing the face and cultivating lots of bacterial microbes that in the end I would able to be used for magical purposes as a synthetic connection, but mostly I wouldn't be able to pay taxes unless you know. Yeah, that's a long story. It takes me over 2 hours now to learn how to juggle more than one thing in my brain. There is it said every 6 months, like a clock spring about an hour delay, which sort of fits what the highs from cocaine add up to if I'm addicted enough, but it gets addictive. But at that point doesn't it also be self-destructive? If we live beyond 500 years old, well then I don't know what time period, since I live life so full that maybe that will be out of a concern by then. So hey, there's my half-assed plan of action for what I was going to talk about, which was, subpoint before we return, post-grab of stimulant or a lifesaver. They actually come. Curious thing about that sorcery. You know it's sorcery, right? Well, okay, look it up. 2 to 3 hours is when you need to know how many pills or potions to take if your schedule isn't online already. We will return to the important part at this time only to take notes on these backs of the New York Cityites that forget about this book they've always read before, but I didn't realize they had removed the ability for magic people in real life to access anything not linked directly to a specific magical item by brand or one made by another individual, maybe family member, although here I will observe that families are involved with more misdeeds in the city than Earth than any other living species, hence the arms. Not even working, so you can imagine. What I am trying to say is while it's fine to go shopping and look for spell-related items, the simplest things are less expensive than normal gadgets like books that help us pass time away during waiting rooms and classrooms. It allows me a reason to seek out certain behaviors like checking under the school bus every month without supervision to see if any new copycat religions have materialized. Mostly because these children are terrible in some ways, all the praying etc. bad, good clean fun, but making these subtext jokes sometimes gets old. seeking out ingredients for spells, you got to check out the 3 different types of botanicals. You got the first level, which is like your Rite Aid. It gets you the gift cards that need you to the video games and other services. There's boxes made of light and complex technologies that affect your ability to have a reward system that you can control, so you know all the loot boxes and likes and points and all that. The second one, the second layer of the botanicals is that at the botanic with the heart 1000 letter. Yeah, it's the way you get your jinx jewels in your dews and your savages, and they do bring in herbs from all around the world, and now you get your mom out of line and your other things and your beads dead, the dedicated still like you, and all these magic things, and Dave under the start of your immediate family history and near the collective spirit of the generations. And then you get the third level, which is available on a nice treat. You sometimes get it in dreams. You accidentally stumble into your genetic code, which hasn't been in some moments from the ball past. If no one ever knows or talks about, and maybe even consider the mist, and those items are not available on any show's store shelf. They just you wake up and you have it next to you, and this is the realm of the Eldritch, whether that is the oldest gods that made it about you, because you're just actually a piece of fluff. When seeking out ingredients for spells, you got to check out the 3 different types of botanicals. You got the first level, which is like your Rite Aid. It gets you the gift cards that need you to the video games and other services. There's boxes made of light and complex technologies that affect your ability to have a reward system that you can control, so you know all the loot boxes and likes and pine.
Okay. Maybe you made all your spells green, as they will have something that is actually unreadable that much. You know, your problem is solved until they understand themselves later on. I mentioned I saw them most recently at least twice. So, again, don't worry, the other stuff about it so soon. Like, oh no, he looked at us. Now wait, a second. That is much better when my food stands straight up while I talk instead of spinning around. That will help me balance out the writing. Except probably need to sleep tonight, since you do things in less than 30 seconds, but then have to add the one small things, make sure, and...
Keep it with you are so clever, wise, whatever. It says that they were too lazy for a certain thing going on back there whenever there might be nothing at all. So to change course, this was all sort of stuff that involved taking notes to help and guide when I actually started to interact more closely with the others, which led to situations in my life and our game, and I want to tell you about another interesting side effect, and yes, that really happened, because it's that even if the spell doesn't work or simply isn't an item and is removed or is broken on a practical basis, you must still celebrate successful communication. They've done a marvelous job. You look over, you should try these little glasses. This thing is called Tic-Tac Milk. Can't talk for too long today. We got our record holder junior. If anyone knows why something was missing from my story, please let me know. So far what I suspect, and if this wasn't that weird by coincidence, either my notepad is empty now, which apparently happens all the time, especially when I'm home alone. So, on the day where it happened, a wizard helped me grow my teeth, which is pretty damn amazing considering magic. I remember that was a very good show with lots of slime and poop and animes. Usually came after super crazy exciting music like anything at least 9 years ago. Thank you, have a good one. Alright, just kidding. That day while playing pickup basketball against myself, the witch from the setup that showed up took an interest in this and asked if I wanted to improve my love life with someone special. Yes, she said. I wanted to know what did they get, what would have picked me up. I had no idea if she could answer. I suspected magic, so I went through all my information and figured it out. Yes, I came from a long line of demigods and goddesses. I never found out to which it belonged mostly, as they hide it, but at a lot of places in our universe there were dark matter people out there that worshipped like themselves were different combinations of certain parts of the different species working together, such as androids and other humanoids such as this that are from me and her worker relationship. They weren't difficult to find, as you waited for one to approach you, and it worked quite well considering their appearance was somewhat perfect. So you say stuff, and it replied with something slightly strange. She liked to read about people before talking to them, so but in terms of bad pairings, let me warn you, do not pair an android with an asteroid dweller, as it seems only right a platinum model for a giant ball of mysterious anomalies. Much like when you hear the name Draco Dragon, then what you don't want to play is Go Fish. Well, then again, then we have got lots of fish in them, which may or may not be true. I'll list out the positives and negatives depending on who you talk to. So if there's 3 degrees in front of us is going to be your guess, but it sounds good and all I agree. Either way, the most powerful flame-based magic that they can cast on you is 2 degrees, so make sure you keep 3 degrees separate and maybe preemptively more on the first 2 degrees of your relations, considering the possible future threats of marriage into families that might commit mass or galactic terrorism unless you live in a really crowded galaxy, okay? An alternate for this, I'm saying, should you also contact a halfling if you have your heart set on someone you already have their scent already, how dare they approach me? Do not come near me until your parents force them, and then they kill them. Well, look at this, good luck finding in such a narrow field. Those things work perfectly with someone like. The Knight's general standard is that all your relationships must work within the dimensional logic, or perhaps mine would be a better phrase, with regard to human understanding. i.e., the dimensionality that reality on Earth consists of currently to meet the next, so she could walk out to sea as a spirit, for example. In order for me to meet him, you have to become another, and I can imagine I forgot to even put everything he must first die in life were, because what else happened to him after a single star went by right to meet people afterwards? They still want to share space with someone too close when she comes back. Okay. She was very quick in finding her voice, as they told me it worked inside a limited logic. Dimensionally speaking, that felt much more like a shutterfuck childhood. How was the end? Great, my balls are now dangling, and since they were sort of between male and female, our marriage ceremony basically consisted of me swinging that thing in a circle with her laughing uncontrollably. Do not wait any longer. And if you thought they weren't weird, but only for human culture standards, start talking to someone other than yourself, like your closet in this case. Let's assume you don't even exist, which you're happy to start over, and it still continued until she woke up. But did I give that stupid troll dick about as an answer? No, you're fine, as a story of your life, whatever, as I got